participate in the Andy Warhane
Oh,
golf
nice.
outing, and it was wonderful. And there was a lot of familiar faces there, and we thought it was gonna rain most of the day, but I think Andy had other plans for us, so it was wonderful. But it was a great day.
Cool. Thank you, Holly.
I attended the guest bartender night at Coach's Corner. Was that last Monday, 2 Mondays ago?
2 Mondays ago, I think you are right.
Yeah.
July flies by.
Yeah, it's flying by. That was a great night to get out and interact with some of the staff and teachers, and on a pretty quiet night. Otherwise, I hosted a family reunion that weekend, so it gave me a chance to kind of decompress, relax, and interact with the staff and teachers. So that was a really fun night.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Piggy, for sharing that. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. We will now have our board committee reports, starting with the business services on July 1st. Mrs. Hauk or Mr. Hemke, do you have anything you would like to highlight or share from the business services committee minutes?
Well, we did have a representative from Nania Energy Services come in at the request of some more due diligence on looking at solar options, and that was a good presentation. And they're an organization, I think they're going to continue to look at and present to us multiple different options in addition to what we were presented the month before. So it's an ongoing thing, and look forward to hearing more about options for solar in our district.
Any questions for Mr. Hemke or Mrs. Hauk? Okay. Moving on to policy and personnel on July 17th. Mrs. Young or Mr. Piggy, do you have anything you would like to highlight or share from the policy and personnel committee minutes?
It was a very quick meeting, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, right to the point.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Young or Mr. Piggy? Or Dr. Sharp for that matter? Since she's there. Okay. Seeing none. The following policies were discussed and carried forward from the Policy and Personnel Committee for a first reading. Policy :80, board members, oath and conduct. Policy :130, board superintendent relationship. Policy 3:50, administrative personnel other than the superintendent. Policy 7:40, public, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschool students, part-time attendance. Policy 7:90, release during school hours. Policy :140, search and seizure. Policy 7:325, student fundraising activities. And Policy 8:80, gifts to the district. Again, Mrs. Young, Mr. Peggy, Dr. Shug, is there anything you would like to say about any of these policies?
I would just say most of the changes were very minimal and something the state requested, so it's very easy to say. Yep.
Anyone have any questions or concerns about these policies before they return next month for board approval?
The only one that substantively really changed was the 350. There was a bunch of the superintendent shells, like a list of the superintendent shall, like 10 different things, and I'm just curious, is that something that is covered somewhere else, or is it something that, I'm curious why that was eliminated, and why it was there in the first place, and then why it was eliminated.
Yeah, I think those are great questions. So as part of our annual policy review, we will be reviewing sections 1, 2, and 3 at the August board meeting. In anticipation of that, we've been going through those policies, and those policies that are significantly different from the press policies are ones that we are bringing forward to the committee. So next month, you'll see a few more of these, and determining if the board, in fact, does want to continue with the language as it is drafted, or if they would prefer not to continue with that language and revert to the press document policies. So we looked at that in terms of policy 740, which is one where we have diverted from the press language there and have adopted our own language. So we talked about that a little bit at this month's meeting. And then policy 350 was changed in 2021 to reflect some very specific operational pieces. So this policy 350 takes some of those operational pieces out and keeps it more general in nature. Most of our policies, this one included, then has essentially standard operating procedures that we follow to implement that. So anything that is in there would have specific procedures in terms of how we would follow it moving forward. Does that answer your question, Brian? I feel like maybe not.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, the other question is, those shells were included for a reason, and curious, is there not a need for that reason anymore? It seems like it's a bunch of information on what information needs to be disseminated to the board and when it
Correct.
shall be disseminated to the board.
Correct. I think the board at the time that this policy was adopted felt really strongly that they wanted some very specific procedures in place regarding administrative evaluation. And I think that is what caused that policy to change. It was revised, I think, 3 times in 2021. So this, again, goes back to that legal language that's in that press policy.
And the legacy board members' opinion?
My view is this was overly prescriptive by a lot compared to what you would normally find. So, as Dr. Shug said, the board at the time felt it was important, but it's kind of hard to get behind that, I think. Keep it there.
Thanks, Jeff.
And I think this is reverting back to what press recommendations were
Yeah.
to begin with.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or concerns about these policies before they return next month for board approval? Okay. All right, at this time, members of the public and employees of District 100 may make public comments. As a reminder, any person appearing before the board is expected to address the board and only at the appropriate time and follow the directives of the board president to maintain order and quorum, identify oneself, limit comments to 3 minutes, and conduct oneself with respect towards others and abide by board policy 8:30, visitors to and conduct on school property. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Yes?
Tonight you take up,
Here, Ms. Griffin.
I'm a teacher, I don't.
They want to hear you at
District's
home.
Proposed policy for student personal device usage. I'm going to be blunt, I'm not happy with the policy that we've ironed out. I joined the committee late, and I believe most of what I missed was literature review. I know what the research says, I've read it on my own, but the process wasn't simply about research. The process was about compromise and about reaching consensus. Compromise is not arriving at a point where all parties are happy. Compromise is reaching the point where all parties land at their acceptable level of dissatisfaction. I believe this committee has arrived at that point. Admin, teachers, students, and parents are each, for their own reasons, moderately dissatisfied with the outcome. That's how it should be. We need to see more of that in our national politics, actually. As a middle school teacher, I'm best suited to see this issue through the lens of middle school. I would like to share a few of my concerns the proposed policy addresses. First, there is no research that suggests that constant cell phone access and usage is good for students socially, emotionally, or academically. Second, in an emergency, and specifically in a lockdown situations, I have grave concerns with students in my classroom receiving phone calls from parents. My concern is not simply phones ringing. My concern is the student's uncontrollable emotional response to a parent calling that compromises the safety of everyone in my classroom. And lastly, I've had a student take photos of me and post them to social media. I would like to remind parents that middle school students are not of an age where they can execute a binding contract. So those cell phones are not in fact the students'. Pictures, videos, and recordings of staff without their consent are actually captured on the parent's phone. I would encourage admin and staff with BEA assistance to pursue these personal intrusions as such. I'm asking the board tonight to approve the proposed policy as submitted, to require admin and staff to implement the policy with fidelity. Those of you that know me have heard those words before. And to arrange for periodic review of the policy's effectiveness. So I don't want this to be a one and done thing, that we come back and revisit it to see if we need to loosen or tighten. And that's my commentary for tonight.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mrs. Griffith. Anyone else that would like to address the board?
Yes, I would. I like using this though. Looks better.
All right, please state your name, if you would mind.
Robert Hauser,
Okay,
and I live in Belvedere Township.
thank you. Mr. Howard.
I am here because I feel we are doing a less than acceptable job educating our kids. I no longer have children in the district, but I do have grandchildren who live in this school district, and within the next 4 or 5 years, they will be going here. I have, in all honesty, neglected to pay attention to the declining test scores until I realize my children will be here in a few years. We are in the bottom half of school districts in Illinois. The average proficiency for 11th grade math is under 10%. The Illinois average is not good, but at 26 is still considerably better. The ELA is under 20%. The Illinois average again is at 30%, which is not particularly good, but still better. We have been on a general decline and typically worse than the state average for several years. We have 100% of the teachers rated proficient or excellent. We have added teachers in total. Since 2012, we've gone from 480 to 564 teachers. Total students have declined since 2011 from 8739 to 7407, so about 1,300 students less. Meanwhile, the cost of education has increased from 86 million or so in 2012 to in the neighborhood of 154 million. So we have good to excellent teachers, more of them, less students, and spending considerably more money for what looks, through testing anyway, to be a less than successful education for our kids. I realize we are always at least a year behind in the numbers, so these are all from '24. In conclusion, we need to find an answer, and preferably before we lose the next class of students. I realize new plans have been formulated in the last decade and worked at. The numbers show we have not succeeded, and in fact, we have typically gotten worse. I have come to the hopefully wrong conclusion that we have come to accept failure as the norm and are okay with it. We need to turn this around. Our kids deserve better than what we have done in the past several years. I gave most of the same speech before, so some of you, this is just a redo, but it seems like it didn't make that much of a difference. Now we have a new school board, and maybe that will make the difference. Maybe that will provide the change we need. I cannot believe any of you want to be part of a 90% failure rate. I hope you become obsessed with finding a solution that works and following through with it. To be in the bottom 50% of school districts in Illinois cannot be what you want your legacy to be. I will leave you with this quote, which you all know very well. Our goal is to cultivate academic success so that our students become lifelong learners, innovators, and contributors to society. I would be happy to provide any of these numbers to you. It's all off the District 100 website though. So all the numbers come from you guys. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hauser. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Didn't mean to coop you up.
It's all right. Okay.
My name is Matt. Know who I am. want to talk about a couple things. First of all, the cell phone policy, I read it. It's not that I'm against it. I'm not trying to speak against it. I just want to make sure that when you institute something like this, you're prepared for the worst case scenario on punishment for these kids that violate the policy. Too often, whether it be dress code or something else, we institute policies, and then when the worst case scenario happens, we're not willing to follow through with it. So make sure that whatever you institute as punishments for these, that you're willing to follow through with whatever they are, whether it be suspending kids, Saturday school, whatever, because if you don't, you're going to lose a lot of credibility. And I can tell you from over 40 years, you're going to get tested on this by more than one person, whether it be a parent, student, or all of them. Now, moving on to the SIP plans, we have 10 schools in the district that are traditional schools. Looking at the board agenda and the SIP plans that are going to be approved tonight, 5 of them are either targeted or commendable. That means 5 are on what I would call the naughty list of the state, due to 1 category, 2 categories, in some cases 2 categories. One of them I wanted to mention in particular, without me, and obviously has been over 5 years. So I think when Mr. Hauser was just talking, we can talk about scores, we can talk about all that stuff, but I think a lot of it comes down to accountability. Every time I read literature for people running to be on the school board, accountability and transparency are always prominent on there. But it seems to me that I failed to see where that accountability's come to fruition in these cases. For example, Central, when my kids went there, and some of you that are here had kids the same time mine were there, Central was not on the watch list of anything. They were one of the better middle schools in the state. Their principal was named Principal of the Year. But through more than one administration, that school has had 5 or 6 principals in the last 13 years. So I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm just saying that's a reality that we brought upon ourselves. Excuse me. When we look at accountability, I looked at Central. One of theirs was data is not systematically reviewed by teams. Common high-quality instruction practices are not in place consistently. I'm pretty sure Central has a Marzano number 2 designation, which says effective teaching in all classrooms. So we've done that in all the schools around here, past level 2 or more, yet obviously something must have gone wrong there. So where's the accountability? I mean, I haven't seen any accountability on that, on dual language scores. Look at the dual language scores. But lastly, I think the one that's more pertinent to me is the board has one person to evaluate, and that's the superintendent. Yeah, when it came time to evaluating the superintendent this time, they didn't do it I didn't do it in my time there, so they didn't do it before April, before the new board was seated with 5 new board members. So if we believe in accountability, we probably should have started there instead of some other place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zickert. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay. Next on the agenda are our consent agenda items. Are there any items on the consent agenda any members of the board would like to take out for separate consideration? Here now.
After that discussion and a little bit of looking at the SI and not really fully understanding the background behind SI, I would like to move to remove that from consent if it's not required to be approved today and have more discussion about SI.
You can remove it from consent as well and just discuss it and then vote on it as well. So that would be another way to do that.
Okay. Yeah, so I noticed there's five schools that are on a,
So we'll
Oh,
remove it
yeah.
from consent, then we'll vote on the consent items, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
yes, thank you.
So, Member Hemke is requesting to have item number 9, school improvement plans, removed. Any other requests? Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to approve all consent agenda items not requested to be pulled as presented?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Member Hauk made a motion, and Member Young seconded the motion to approve all consent agenda items not requested to be pulled as presented. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hauk,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Piggy,
Aye.
Mr. Hemke,
Aye.
Mr. Mueller,
Aye.
and Mr. Herrera.
Aye. Okay, do I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda item number 9 as presented?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. Member Hemke made a motion. Member Hauk seconded the
Piggy.
motion.
Mr. Piggy.
Oh, it was, oh, sorry. Okay, let me see. I didn't hear that right over here.
Was that
Member
motion
Piggy.
to approve or?
We'll
Yeah.
approve and then we'll have discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Discussions.
So Member Piggy made a motion and Member Hauk seconded the motion to approve consent agenda item number 9 as presented. Discussion.
Yes, so can I learn a little bit more about the summative designation of targeted school
You
improvement?
absolutely can, and I'm gonna turn it over
Yes.
to Dr. Johnson on this.
Sounds good. This piece is a little bit confusing because these plans have actually already been approved. They've just been updated. So they've been approved by the board. The state, as you can imagine, receiving federal dollars, are under more restrictions, and so they needed more detail in the plans. So we were able to put some of that detail in there. And the state is requiring that the board approve them so that these schools can receive their school improvement funding through a grant. So the grant I wrote this summer, and pending approval, if you decide to vote on that tonight, releases those funds so that the schools can continue their work. So that's the background as to why it's on here tonight. But the designations, and a little bit more information on that, the designations come out each fall when they release what they call the Illinois Report Card. And at Ed Services, Dr. Carson and I go through just where our schools fell. It's a very complicated but well-done matrix for schools that look at growth and proficiency. They look at graduation rates for high schools, students on track, some data with our English language learners. Attendance is a big piece of that. And depending on where it falls in the formula, many of our schools, in this case, the reason why they're on plans is because they had a targeted subgroup that wasn't at a level the state needed them to be. They have thresholds for that. When that happens, then schools go through a cycle with Dr. Carson and myself that the state requires that involves like a root cause analysis. It involves a needs assessment. We're required to pair up with a Illinois provider, which is like a professional development agency, things along those lines, when a school is designated as targeted or comprehensive. So we spend a lot of time on that every November, I think, in Ed Services, with the Ed Services Committee and then with the board as well, in much greater detail. It's just for this, the plans came out in May, in most cases for these schools. Some of these plans are a year or two old, and the state, in order to receive the federal dollars, was required to ask for more information on the plans. But the initiatives are all the same. The school improvement teams work on them. They've been reviewed by the board. Again, they're just requiring more information before they'll release us our funds for the year. I know
So
it's a
every
lot
school,
thrown
every,
at you.
every school in the state is evaluated on a set of
Criteria,
6 or so groupings of metrics.
correct.
And it seems like it would be common, it would be fairly common for school to maybe not meet one out of those. How long has the state been doing this?
We started just before COVID. They changed this particular method. It's about 2018, 2019 was some of the first sets of data. Then there was a pause for this, some of the COVID years. Some of the schools end up, not some, I should say, when a school ends up as targeted or comprehensive, what happens is you have a, what do they call it, like a learning year? What's the first year? Like a planning year. And then you're on the cycle for 3 years because they really believe that without the 4 years, 1 planning and 3 of following through, you can't make significant change.
Yeah.
So for many of our schools, they're targeted 1 year, but the next year they pop back up right away. But that status remains for 4 years. So like Meehan is an example of that, where they did pop up to commendable, but unfortunately on that last year, subgroup popped up, happened to be the same subgroup, and then that's what knocked them down to comprehensive. So there's all these like little nuances and rules that kind of come with it. But for our schools on these plans, many of them pop up to commendable within a year or two. It's just they remain in that status for 4 years.
And then when we enact a plan, we receive grant money that must be appropriated to conducting that plan.
Yes, correct. Yep. And so if you're targeted, they have certain allocations. If you're comprehensive, you receive more funding. Each year, it's been inconsistent on how much funding. And so we don't have the exact dollar amount until our grant opens. Our grant has opened and in general has been approved. It's just they asked all the schools in the state to go back, add more details to their plan per what was being asked of them. And then they require a updated school board approval.
So are we falling short, like we have 3 elementary schools, are we falling short in the same category at each school?
So a couple of our schools are English learners and a couple of them are children with disabilities. One of the schools was 2 or more races. So you have to have at least 20 in a grade level to make up a subgroup. So what happened at that particular school is they had that subgroup. Then that subgroup, enough of them had moved up to 9th grade that for a year there they didn't have the subgroup, and then the subgroup's back. So the planning for that school was a little bit more broad to just at-risk students at that point, because when you're right on the cusp of 20 students in a grade level, sometimes you have enough and sometimes you don't. So schools like Perry and Caledonia often don't have those subgroups because they don't have 20 in a grade to make it enough to be recorded, whereas a school, for example, like Washington has almost everyone possible.
So is it possible, you said November, you discuss it at services. Is it possible, since we do have a new board, that you could bring an update after that meeting? And then, because I do think we have talked about it, but a lot of us probably don't understand
Yes.
what it means yet.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay, great.
I
That'd
like
be good.
geek out about it. There's the matrix and everything that happens there.
Yeah,
It's
then
a
we'll
lot
have an
that goes
update
into it.
before it comes back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is the state releases it right around Halloween each year. So whether it's a little bit before or a little bit after, it gets released, all the designations are on there, and that's usually what prompts the Ed Services meeting to go through that information. And where we're at.
That SI grant money, how is that money used? Or how does that money help?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with the state requires that you partner up with an Illinois provider, which is an outside company, and you want to match that with what your need is. So BHS was a good example with English learners, and they were able to partner up on SIOP, which I'm going to butcher. It's sheltered.
Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol.
Thank you. Training that is specific for English learners in a general education classroom, strategies that any teacher could use. And so, for example, the school improvement funding I could have written the grant to pay for the provider to do the training, the stipends to pay the staff if the training was in the summer. Benefits, then if you're gonna do a stipend, there's benefits for it, there's materials, that's another line item. So things along those lines is how a school, when they're going through their school improvement plan, they're also considering that there's some money with it, so that helps them not be as limited with what their plans are. They're not just solely focused on their typical local school budget for the year. They have more money, for example, if they want to do some release time throughout the year for some teachers to work on some things periodically, then we might cover a substitutes cost. Those are other ways that you can use the grant. There's a whole bunch of rules of the do's and don'ts of it, but we've learned it pretty well over the years. Like, I can't buy furniture. Like, there's certain things that, like, you know, for example, that's a no-no. You can't do travel conferences out of state. They won't pay for travel. So there's like little nuances.
Right, that makes sense.
Any other
Thanks.
questions for Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for providing that information. It was helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
All right, Mr. Piggy,
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Hemke,
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Mueller,
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda are our roll call agenda items, starting with Belvedere Education Support Team Agreement for your contract from 2025 to 2029. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the Belvedere Education Support Team Agreement for the years 2025 through 2029 as presented? Oh,
2020.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'll
I'll
make them.
motion.
Oh, sorry.
okay, so,
Here you go.
I'll motion.
okay. Do we have a second?
Oh, you did?
Okay.
Duncan Dieselmeyer.
Yeah, so Member Young made the motion, and Member Dieselmeyer seconded the motion to approve the Belvedere Education Support Team Agreement for the years 2025 through 2029 for your contract as presented. Any discussion?
I would like to just, I see the vice president of Best out there, and wanted to say, all of the paras, thank you for all you do. You guys work really negotiations. It was obvious how much you love your jobs, so we appreciate you.
Any other comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
All right, Mrs.
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Piggy,
Aye.
Mr. Hemke,
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk,
Aye.
Mr. Mueller,
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Do I have a motion and a second to approve Joanne Armstrong, CFO/COO, and Board Treasurer as the individual designated to prepare the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026 as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Member Hemke made the motion, Member Mueller seconded the motion to approve Joanne Armstrong, CFO/COO, and Board Treasurer as the individual designated to prepare the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026 as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Hemke,
Aye.
Mr. Mueller,
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk,
Aye.
Mr. Piggy,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye. Motion passes. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the cell phone and electronic device use policy as presented?
Make motion.
For a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, Member Young made the motion and Member Piggy seconded the motion to approve the cell phone and electronic device use policy as presented. Discussion?
I just wanted to highlight a few of the pieces that you see here. We pulled together a research study team that consisted of 32 stakeholders, who, as Ms. Griffith was one of those stakeholders, and could attest to, we had people truly on all sides of the spectrum, representing students who maybe wanted absolutely no cell phone restrictions, to parents and staff who would like to see no cell phones at school at all. This also included discussion about smartwatches and earbuds, all of the different electronic devices that come to school. And also, as Ms. Griffith alluded to, we spent the first part of those meetings doing research. These are research study teams for a reason. We pulled the research and really looked into it, and it was very, very clear that student wellness, and in the best interest of student wellness, restrictions to cell phones are absolutely necessary. And as we dug further into that research, it becomes more and more evident that those devices do in fact impair students' ability to learn effectively in the classroom. I would say that diverse group of stakeholders agreed on that in terms of what was clear and consistent in the research. We then surveyed all of our students and families, and I have, as I think I said last month, I've been in this district and administered I don't know how many surveys. I would say we do at least 10 a year. I have never seen the level of response that we received for this survey. Over 1,700 people reached out and provided their opinions. We were so grateful. Ms. Hadley, our communications staff member, said, when you got a survey, you got to listen to it. We cannot send out surveys and not be responsive to the information that's going out there. As such, we saw, again, the spectrum of responses, but most people were somewhere in the middle. So we really wanted to balance the student wellness being the leading factor, that we knew we had to do something, but we also knew we didn't want to be so extreme that our parents and our families were going to feel like they couldn't contact their children when it was necessary and or at times convenient, right? So trying to figure out how to navigate those was no easy task and involved a great deal of discussion. But what we have in front of you tonight, I think, does a pretty good job of getting at that middle ground where no one is quite happy. General expectations are that devices must be put away and not in use during instructional periods. And then those personal devices are defined as really any wearable technology, okay? Earbuds, phones, all of those items are not to be out and in use during instructional time periods. At the elementary, all of our students will be expected to keep those personal devices in their lockers throughout the day. So at the elementary level, again, research absolutely clear that our elementary level students really should not be having access to these devices. At the middle school, things got a little bit trickier. But personal devices right now are not allowed during those instructional times. We wanted to maintain that. So those devices are to be stored in lockers at the middle school as well. However, they may be used at the lunch hour. There was quite a bit of conversation about should they or should they not be able to be used at the lunch hour. And we really compromised on this particular piece to say this is what we're going to recommend at this time, and then we will be evaluating it. We have actually a meeting tomorrow with the cell phone team, and then we'll be meeting again in October to see how this went. Was it too restrictive or not restrictive enough in terms of that middle school lunch and any of these other pieces. At the high school, students may use their cell phones before school, after school, during passing periods, and during the lunch hour. However, when they arrive in those high school classrooms, they are going to be required to store those phones during instructional time. The phones are able to be there, they will be in proximity to those students, but they will be stored during that time period. That will look like something like a cell phone locker or a pouch. Those are the details that we'll be ironing out, assuming the board approves this evening. We will be following up with that and any other feedback that the board gives the team. We'll be discussing that in further detail tomorrow. There are exceptions and flexibility, as you can see in those, in that proposal. Clearly, we're going to provide modifications for those students who have IEPs and 504s and require things. For example, a student who is diabetic may need to access their blood sugar. A student who has sight problems or vision issues may need to have a magnifying device provided by that cell phone. There's any number of different reasons. However, we also committed as a team to make our very best effort to make other options available wherever possible. We also have some opt-out in terms of emergencies, and again, that is a definition that's in that proposal. And we also will have some additional options for classes in which, for example, you need a camera, and perhaps your cell phone is the best camera available. However, those will all require administrative approval. So again, just trying to be really, really consistent. I'm gonna just take 1 minute to say what is not included in the proposed policy. The policy does not permit individual teachers to set their own phone policies. We had a group of 32 stakeholders that didn't agree on much, but one thing they absolutely agreed on was this cannot be put on the back of the individual teacher. We need a system structure in place so that the teachers can be engaging in what they are hired to do, teaching in those classrooms, and it's our responsibility as a district to provide the structure to allow that to happen. This does not fully ban cell phones from campus, and it does not place enforcement responsibility solely on teachers. So that is the proposal that is before you today. Questions, feedback, comments?
You have a lot to do before the start
Yeah.
of school year.
That is a true statement, Mr. Hemke.
And so I mean, you could elaborate on that, but I also appreciate, I noticed next steps are to reevaluate in October.
Correct.
So very quickly evaluate how it's going and be able to make adjustments if necessary, and I think that's really important.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The team felt that that was very important as well. Making sure that this isn't a one-shot deal, that we're going to evaluate it, see if we need to make this stricter, less strict, and what the teachers and the students and parents need.
Is this an ongoing committee then, or like when we're evaluating it next year, is it the same committee, is it just admin? Where do we go at that point?
We have this committee that will be in place, again, tomorrow to have our follow-up meeting, and then they have on their invites October 6th. So it is fully my anticipation that this committee will stay in place to continue to evaluate this work. And if we need to look at that membership, we lose some of our stakeholders, some of our senior students, things like that, we will reevaluate that as need be. And we would always welcome a board member to join that team as well.
This says a tiered consequence system. What does that mean?
That's a great question, Mr. Piggy. So we do have a discipline guide that talks about technology violations and what that might look like, but we also have different levels of enforcement that are happening at each of our sites regarding that cell phone or other electronic devices. So we are going to, again, provided the board approves this will be part of the conversation we have next tomorrow to say if a student has a violation. So you're supposed to put your phone in your cell phone locker. However, a student neglects to do that, or they put some, old phone in there and they've got their real phone still on them, or whatever the case may be, right? Because students, like adults, will find strategies.
not
So we know that. So if that is the case, what is going to be the consequence for that? I think we heard Mr. Zickert say pretty clearly at the beginning of this meeting as well. If we don't enforce something, we can expect that this will fail, and we can expect that students will test this. So determining exactly what that's going to look like at each one of our schools or at each level across the district, so that each student knows what to expect and each administrator has support for that practice.
Is it up to the teachers to enforce this, or is this anybody can enforce it?
Well, it will be, I'm not quite exactly understand your question. Can you give me a little bit more?
Who can, enforce the consequences?
Okay, so in a The teacher is going to be able to enforce some level of consequence, right? I mean, your first step likely is going to be put your phone away, put your phone in the cell locker. And then the second step might be, for example, to put that phone in a pouch and seal it up, okay? The administration is gonna be involved at the appropriate level to address that. Again, our goal is not to put this solely on the back of the teachers, to provide that administrative support, and also to provide a really clear tiered consequence system, so nobody's making up what they're doing in those classrooms when there's a violation. There's a clear system to support them.
Okay.
So when you talk about the pouch or the locker, have we purchased those things already?
We have not. We do have some pouches that are available in the district right now, and we do have several options for how we might proceed with those different options for those classrooms, if it's pouches, if it's lockers, if it's a combination of both.
I fully support this. I think this is excellent. I think it's so needed. I just worry that we don't have enough time to communicate it effectively and get all the things that we need before school starts in a month.
Barbie, we share your concerns. You know, it's funny, at the end of the year, you know, I had cell phone is a summer project, and the weeks tick by very, very quickly. We do believe that we're gonna be moving, you know, we're hitting the ground running as fast as we can. We absolutely believe that communication is gonna be key on this, so we're gonna get that information out. We have to make a decision on what that storage device is going to be. So tomorrow, we're really gonna drill into that conversation so that we can get that facilitated. Those cell phone lockers are relatively inexpensive to purchase. They come through pretty quickly. I feel pretty confident we can get those things in place, and I feel pretty confident in those communications, but is it a tight deadline? Yes, Ms. Young, it is a tight deadline.
I also would just raise a little bit of concern for the teachers themselves, because they are gonna have to be doing the policing, and they're gonna have to be doing, and I just wanna make sure that we fully support them. I mean,
Yep.
we're gonna have some angry parents.
Yep.
We're gonna have some angry kids, and I just wanna make sure that our teachers are fully supported in rolling this out.
100% agree with you. I think that's absolutely the key to our success, and why we haven't been able to be effective thus far, because individual teachers are trying to enforce a policy on their own, and I think we really need to rally behind that and provide that support. But there's definitely gonna be some, at least initially, some difficult conversations, so. We hope that our parents and families will help support us as well.
You'll establish some good communication for the community, for the parents.
Correct.
With a full why we're doing this, and, yeah.
And what the committee really said, you know, is again, that we're gonna lead with that why. So that is really the intention, is to lead with the why. Mr.
Yes.
Bell, anything you would add? I know you sat on that team.
The principals, the high school principals are the ones that really came through, and they wanted this policy in place to help them in this whole entire situation as well. So just to put that one out there, I know the concern about the teachers is a valid one that came up numerous times on the committee, that it's not just the teachers in this whole entire process. So, yeah, I think the majority of the things that we hit in the committee came out tonight as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. And I think just having one unified policy for the district on this will help address many of those issues for both the teachers and everybody to be on the same page going forward with this policy. So, any other further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
All right, Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Piggy.
Aye.
Mr. Mueller.
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Mr. Hemke.
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye, motion passes. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the bilingual handbook as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Hauk made the motion, and Member Piggy seconded the motion to approve the bilingual handbook as presented. Any discussion?
We do have Mr. Mandujano here. Mr. Mandujano, did you want to highlight anything?
Yeah, so, about a year ago or so, we had a committee that kind of got together, and we did some, an evaluation, a review basically of our programs, and one of the things that came out of the review was that we needed some sort of a handbook that we, one-stop shop, kind type of a document that would support our staff and our teachers on what our bilingual policies are, what's the purpose behind it, given some opportunities where they could find some professional development, what some of the verbiage is. As you guys all know, we like to use acronyms in education, so kind of helping with that portion. So we started this, and hopefully you guys approve it, to kind of just support our teachers and our staff. And, you know, as time goes on, if we need to make changes or whatnot, obviously we'll take a look at that, review it on a yearly basis, and if there's changes that need to be made, then we'll bring that back.
Any questions for Mr. Montano
Is-
or Dr. Shug?
Is this the first bilingual handbook that we've published as a district?
Since I've been here, yes.
We haven't had another one?
Not that I'm aware of. Probably prior before that, before me, maybe. I haven't seen one since I've been.
Mm-hmm,
I don't believe so.
yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Was it modeled after any other handbook, or was it completely self?
No, so we asked other districts if they would share some of their handbooks and so forth. So within the committee, we just kind of got together, looked at other handbooks, and then just kind of put one together on our own, taking just using the examples of some of the others.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Montano? Thank you, Mr. Montano, for your work on the handbook. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Mr. Piggy.
Aye.
Mr. Hemke.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Mueller.
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. The following items have been added for discussion or will be coming up for further review and or possible action in the future. Background information has been provided, and the board may ask questions and or request clarification at this time. So therefore, the facilities master plan. At this time, we would like to invite Nexus up to present an updated overview of District 100's facilities planning and budget work. The goal is to confirm and fine-tune the scope and cost of upcoming projects, making sure they reflect today's construction market and support the district's long-term goals. Since the original estimates were based on 2023 data, the Nexus team has adjusted and moved toward a more comprehensive budgeting approach that looks at the full picture. At this time, we would like to invite the folks from Nexus.
Good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. I had a chance to meet with the board back in March, but obviously there's several new members. My name is Mike David. I'm the president of Nexus Solutions. With me tonight is Hans Knoll, our senior project development engineer and a proud native of Rockford. And Lauren Warner, our client executive. We actually have a team of client executives. We also have Jeff Mangan. Many of you know Jeff. He wasn't able to be here tonight, but we have two of them that will be working on the account to make sure that everything is delivered the way you want it to be. Appreciate you giving us a few minutes. What we want to do is update you on what we've been doing the last several months, kind of where things are at budget-wise and scope-wise. Talk about the work that we've completed to date, update you on where we are budget and scope-wise. There have been some adjustments up and down. We will introduce you to our FIM summary overview. Like in education, in our business, we also have a lot of acronyms. FIM is Facility Improvement Measure. It's a summary tool, more a project or a project selection tool that we use to help organize all the information, help you prioritize and make project selections. And then we'll talk about what the next steps are. And I say questions at the end, but please feel free to ask me questions along the way. When the district was putting or doing the facility study, you went more of a traditional route with hiring an architect, and through the process, I believe that the administration recognized that there'd be benefit of having a firm that had beyond just architectural skills, but that had planning, design, and construction skills as well. They also saw the value of having single source accountability, so you had one firm to manage instead of an entire team of consultants. What we find, and Nexus was fortunate enough to be selected, what our clients have consistently told us is that they really value that we have one entity to hold accountable. It allows your administrative team to oversee the project, but really spend their time managing the district. Let Nexus manage the project and using a completely transparent approach. The services that we provide literally from start to finish, from planning, assisting with funding, design, construction, commissioning, and then cost conservation as well. So really a one-stop shop. Following selection by the board back in March, we immediately got to work. I think it was literally the next day. And we started by taking a look at for those of you that have been on the board, this should look fairly familiar. We started by taking a look at all of the work that had already been done. There was a lot of great work that had been done, and what we wanted to do was deeply immerse ourselves into that. So we started by studying the existing facility reports. And one of the things that we noticed, and quite common, that the report is organized by school and then by design discipline. So you've got architecture and interiors, exterior and site, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, et cetera, et cetera. And to technical professionals, that makes complete sense. To what I refer to as normal people, not so much sense. They tend to look at things more on, well, I want to improve this area, what needs to be done, okay? And not how does it get sliced down in different design areas. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way the current report was put together, but what you'll see later in the presentation when we talk about this project selection tool or the FIM-SUM, as we call it, the Facility Improvement Measure Summary Table, is that that's also organized in spreadsheet format, but it's organized on an improvement basis. So it's just something that's a little more user-friendly. It's something that, again, we've had a lot of good luck with. Once we had a good understanding of the work that had already been done, then we rolled up our shirt sleeves and got to work on site. Hans led a team that visited every single site. Not only did they visit the site, so I guess what we're trying to emphasize is we didn't do this work from back in the office or in cubicles. We did it out on site, physically inspected. So we took all the reports that have been done, and part of our job was to validate the existing work. And we went out, we spoke with staff members at every site, so not only to physically look at it, but to hear from them on what they liked, what their highest priorities were. And we did not only were we inside the buildings, but we did the hardscapes as well. When I talk about hardscapes, those are in simple terms, sidewalks, parking lots, things of that nature. There was a fair amount of work planned there as well, so we wanted to get a better idea of what and why. We then took it further and went from just basic estimates. We went and started putting together preliminary conceptual designs, so that basically allows us to take the budgets and refine them that much further. Started to run those by the staff just to get their feedback on how we solve the problems. With this, we reevaluated and updated all of the budgets. One of the things to keep in mind is that when the budgets were put together, that was 2023. The first year that actual work would be done is 2026. Inflation in the construction market has been averaging about 7% a year, so compounded, that's 20 to 25% difference. So there are some significant changes, but it is reality. What we want to make sure is that once we are ready to design and implement the work, we want to make sure that we have the appropriate budget. Keep in mind that the Nexus doesn't self-perform any of the trade contractor work, which represents 85 to 90% of the total budget. We competitively bid everything, and then we manage all of the subcontractors. We mentioned how we use a holistic budgeting approach. And again, the approach that's been done here is completely normal. It's a normal project development approach where you start with construction budgets and then you start to build them out with how are we actually going to implement the project. And then we built the project selection tool, which would be the tool being used going forward to, again, prioritize and select individual projects. So with all that work done, Hans is going to talk us through kind of what he saw, just give you a few high-level examples, and then share with us kind of how the budgets are updated, and I'll share how everything fits together.
So I've got a quick, for those of you guys that aren't intimate with the building, just got a quick photo tour. Some of the stuff we saw, you'll hear us talk about this phase 1 project. There's phase 2 ultimately coming also. Some of the stuff is in both of them. But again, we want to give you just a high level idea, starting with mechanical, electrical. Really want to focus on here is the upper right, WES, Washington Elementary School. Those are unitary devices throughout the building that provide heating and cooling. They've reached the end of their life. Frankly, the same devices are in this building too. So that's a critical improvement as part of the phase 1 projects. Also, the electrical panels that go along with them. We'll talk about that holistic approach. Obviously, if there's electrical panels that are 50, 60 years old that are connected to those unitary equipment, this is the time to replace those along with the feeders, right? Looking at the hardscape and the site areas, you know, the district's done a pretty good job with the hardscapes. There's always going to be older hardscapes. We want to try and phase them. This district's no different. These pictures show some cracking in the asphalt, cracking in the concrete where there's potential trip hazard. Want to get that included in phase 1. Some of that we'll defer to phase 2, which we'll talk about in a second. Last thing, safer, more secure entrances. Important to point out, the district does have secure entrances by way of having a buzzer to come into the building. Visitors can't just walk in, they have to buzz in. The folks in the main office can see who's coming in before they allow them in. That next step in the secure entrance is to usher those folks straight to either a main office or, you know, a holding area where there's somebody there to see them face to face. They need to bring somebody from the school. If they don't need to go into the school, bring them down, whether it's a teacher or student, rather than having them go in the school. There's one building in the district that has that, that's Seth Whitman. The other buildings don't. So, again, the focus really on these phase 1 projects, which we'll talk about, is infrastructure, mechanical, electrical, some site work, a little bit of roofing work, which I didn't talk about, and then those improving the safety of those buildings. Make sense? Mike talked a little bit about the budget reassessment, the scope reassessment. There is there's some more costs to the projects that were originally approved or reviewed or approved, developed 3 years ago. 3 main buckets and reasons why those pricing has gone up that we want to focus with. Number 1, the original budgets were construction only. So that's pretty typical of consultants about that time during development is to provide construction only or bid date budgets. What that does not include is the soft costs. So the costs that pay engineers, architects to put plans together that get state approved, that get bid out. That doesn't include general conditions, you know, the fencing that needs to go up, you know, potentially temporary routes for safe students, safe staff, safe visitors during construction if we're doing that during the school year. There's contingency that's not accounted for, so those are the soft costs. So right away, there's a little bit of deficit in those original budgets. 2, design discipline versus the holistic budget. I'll talk about this in the next slide, but Mike kind of touched on it. There's a lot of interaction between improvements, right? And that original report had an a la carte menu, which is very typical. But obviously, if we're gonna replace air handling unit, there's electrical work that goes along with that. There's some general work, and the fact that we might need some new shafts, some new soffits, and potentially some structural. So we got to account for that, and that's in the report. But you got to connect the dots when you break it out, those disciplines, the way they did. So, and then lastly, outdated market assumptions. Mike said it already. You know, those were estimated 3 years ago. Year on year, we're seeing 7%. So already we're about 20, 25%. Not all the budgets. As we rebudgeted all the projects that were in it, and not all of them were more. We found some savings either through scope or just feel that we can do them less expensive. We've done them less expensive. So some went down, but the majority of them a little bit more that you, the board had originally seen and approved the roof at phase one. All right, a little bit more detail, and I know it's tough to see, but this is an example straight out of that report where this is Washington Mechanical. 2 line items that were included, and really there's 3 more in there that should have been included. Again, some of them have to be done, some of them it's good engineering practice to be done, right? You can't replace the air handling units or the devices without doing those, without doing the DVC or the DAS controls that go along with them, right? That wouldn't be prudent. So this is just one example of a number of scope items that we put a holistic project together. We're trying to be consultative to make sure the community, the staff, the students get a proper project. Building off that, again, a little bit tough to see. 3 years ago, that consulting firm budgeted $45 per square foot. 3 years ago, that was about right. We're using about $55 per square foot now. So we've updated those budgets. We've included the electrical, we've included the general work that I've talked about. So that accounts for some of the additional costs that we're looking at. And then lastly, not budgeting, but trying to rescope the project a little bit, construction sequencing. We found some opportunity where we're looking at doing some asphalt. We said, well, let's hold off on asphalt until like phase 2, right? We don't want to have construction equipment going over brand new asphalt, to put in new air handling units, new electrical equipment. It still needs to be done, but let's phase this properly. We've got a picture of roofing, same thing goes for roofing. Rather than doing mechanical, electrical upgrades, we're undoubtedly going to have roof penetrations. They end up getting patched. We don't want to do that on a new roof. We'd like to, let's get that work done, patch the older roof. We can then come in with a brand new roof, fully warranted, and not to say that it's not going to have penetrations, there's not going to be more work in the next 40 years, but at least the foreseeable future. For the foreseeable future, we'll have one monolithic roof system that's got a warranty on it. Make sense? Went through that very quickly, but just, again, trying to highlight, some of that work that we went through as we validated that original scope, itemized some of those scopes, cleaned up some of the scopes, and then validated those budgets so that we can give, like I said, give the board, give the district a holistic improvement.
Okay, now moving on to the project selection tool or the facility improvement measure summary table. Really the advantages of this tool or what it's designed to do is, first off, is it's designed to help us, again, organize our project scopes by facility, and it provides clarity, again, so that you know that each individual line item is mutually independent, okay? So it just helps in terms of, again, prioritizing, selecting projects. It really helps us in terms of planning the project going forward. Helps us to prioritize because we can also provide objective, data-driven analysis to each individual line item. It allows us to kind of play what-if games, pick and choose, click items in and out. Not only see what that individual line item does to the total project cost, but what it does in terms of tax impact to the community overall. That rolls into our financial planning tool, as well as the cash flow integration. So we aren't only looking at a list of improvements that sums up to a total, but we're linking that to a financial plan that shows how the project is financed. I should have pointed this out when I show our little org chart of services, but if you're looking closely, you'd see that your financial advisor is still a member of the team. We are not in any way, shape, or form displacing or replacing Stifel or PMA. Our tools are just meant so that instantaneously, as we're picking and choosing items, we don't only see what they cost, but they see what they cost to the local community. Again, it's a very efficient project selection tool. Stifel and PMA, before any final decisions are made, we bring the project back to them. We've had many meetings with them already to help develop the cash flow analysis tool. But then prior to any final board decisions being made, we bring the project back to them. They validate the financing plan. They would be the ones that put the actual plan together. Typically, though, we're within a few percent. So I'm going to show you a couple quick examples of these. Then at the end of the presentation, I'm going to hand you out a larger version that's actually legible. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'll walk you through that. This is always tough when we've got these smaller screens to kind of try to put spreadsheets on there. But this is, again, looks like another spreadsheet like the ones you've seen, but we'll show you that some of you, if you have it on your screens there, you can see how we have the individual items, then we have the funding source. It allows us to toggle through because you've got different ways to fund projects, and not every dollar is, how can I say this? There's different rules for different funding sources. So what we're striving for is what's the optimal way for you to fund your project to get the biggest bang of the buck for the community, give you the most financial flexibility going forward. That's kind of, so the tool it isn't just a pick and choose for the items, but how it's funded as well. I know this is real eye chart. Again, we'll get you a handout in just a moment, but then this rolls up simultaneously to the financing plan. So instantaneously, again, you can see what a project costs, how it would be financed, and what the impact to the local community is on a year-by-year basis. So the summary of the work that we've done to date, the phase one project, or the phase one budget, excuse me, currently stands at $49 million. Again, keep in mind that is a budget, not a price. Once the board officially selects the projects, then we go through a detailed design process. That's about a 6 to 9 month process, and then we competitively bid all the work. But as we've got it structured right now, at the $49 million, there's no tax increase. It doesn't mean it doesn't cost anything. It just won't cost the taxpayers any more than they're currently paying. Okay. The original, what we're now calling phase 1A, was $30.7 million. Phase 1B added to that is, again, infrastructure focused, would be funded largely with health, life, safety funds, or at least it could be if it's the district's choice if that's how we do it, but probably that'd be the most advantageous to you. And then we have started working on phase 2 preliminarily, but phase 2 will focus on early childhood center potentially, career and technical ed building potentially, and then right sizing and proper programming for all spaces across the district. I heard earlier tonight how enrollment has dropped. I think I heard the number from 8,700 to 7,400 students. So again, are we making the best use of our space possible? That's a lot of what we do, is take that comprehensive look. We have just started on initially there. We're ready to get into the design phase on phase 1 and then move into the planning phase on phase 2 following your approval. Speaking of approval, kind of next steps in a timeline, we're here tonight with introducing the updated phase 1 plan. We are scheduled to meet with the Business Services Committee on August 4th. I think that the idea there is to do more of a deeper dive into the FIMSUM tool and kind of look at things on an item-by-item basis, see what items were added in and kicked out. We'd be bringing that back to the board on August 18th. Apologize, looks like our spacing got a little goofed up here. Sorry about that. On August 18th for potential consideration of phase 1 plan approval and phase 2 approach. I want to reemphasize that when you're approving phase 1, you're not approving the expenditure of $49 million. You're approving us Nexus to go forward to the detailed design process. There's expense associated with that, of course. But then each time that we go out for bids, and on that project, we'd probably have 6 or 7 bid packages. Each time we'd go through a public bidding process, we vet all the bids out, we bring them back to you, back to the board for consideration. We then award those bids, we manage those contractors. Again, you'd see all of the bids the whole way through. So you would be approving the plan and authorizing us to go to the next step in the design process. Before the majority of the money is spent, those would be when the bids are brought back to you after each bid package. Okay? So we're asking for consideration of that. If you're comfortable moving ahead on August 18th, we'd appreciate your go-ahead then. We don't want you to move forward until you are comfortable. So if you need more time, if there's more questions, we've allowed time for another business services meeting, which I believe is scheduled for September 2nd. And then we'd come back to the board on September 15th if necessary. And then we would immediately upon getting the green light, we would start on the detailed planning work for phase 2. The reason that these timelines are important, it's July, we're just starting to talk about getting ready for school again. In our business, our planning teams, our design teams are heavily focused on 2026 and 2027, because in our world, that's right around the corner. In order to get you the best prices possible from contractors, we want to be bidding as early as possible in 2026. Summer's a very, very busy time for construction companies. The earlier that they secure work, the better pricing we get. Okay, so as I mentioned, if our design process right now, if we and again, I can't emphasize enough, we don't want you to move forward until you're comfortable, but if you are comfortable, do know that a month makes a big difference, because a month sooner now means we're bidding a month sooner in 2026, and it will matter, okay? We would be bidding, we'd be in design for the rest of the year, be bidding in early '26. Then we would be in heavy construction in the summers of '26, '27, and probably '28. Then concurrent with that, and then you see that we have the second half of phase one that would be designed right on as soon as we're done with the first half of phase one. And concurrent with that, we would be doing the investigation and planning work for phase two. It's important that we get going on that because we want to be doing that during the school year, because while we don't disrupt the learning environment, we obviously know our way around schools very, very well. We want to see how the schools are really used. So we want to be doing that during the year. We want to be doing that work throughout in the 25-26 school year, doing the shaping of that project, likely in the summer of '26 for approval this time, next year. That work would start to be implemented in '27, '8, and '9. So kind of there is a little bit of overlap between the plans. So that just gives you an idea kind of how it dovetails together. These are original, in fact, from our design team, the original Gantt chart that's put together has about 12 line items to it. It's very, very, very detailed, but we just wanted to provide you a high-level overview tonight. But that's the reason, again, why the timeline is laid out from an approval standpoint, is because it is, we want to make sure we keep your project on schedule. We want to put you in the best bidding climate possible in the winter of '26. With that, Lauren, if you want to hand out, I promised that we would provide you with a hard copy. I think you have these in your board packets, but Lauren just has a sample. This isn't the complete FIMSUM. It's one sheet of the FIMSUM followed by the cash flow tool. So it just gives you an idea, and you can, I believe it'll show you the level of sophistication involved. And I guess I'd ask, would you like me to walk through how this is laid out, or do you just want to have a copy? I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure, I mean, if you want to just take a little bit of time, just kind of walk through.
Sure, because I can completely understand we hand out an 11 by 17 spreadsheet. It can be a little daunting. Believe me, it is, I don't expect you, and I tell everybody that if this makes complete sense at first, you don't understand it, okay? So it's, but it is meant to be, I've been using this format for 25 years. It works extremely well. So looking at this sheet, you should have a sheet that looks something like this. Hopefully it looks exactly like this. Okay. This one, I'll get to the multicolored one in just a moment. Just working across this sheet from left to right, you see in the far left-hand column, vertically it says Phase 1A, and then we have Phase 1B. As we move into Phase 2, there'll be another column added there for Phase 2, okay? Because it's all going to work together. So if there's an X in the row, that means it's included. If it's not X'd, it's not included. So you see moving across the table, again, from left to right. Then you have FIM number. That's, again, facility improvement measure number. We put a code number on it, allows us to track that number in our systems. We also have a detailed description associated with each and every improvement item. And again, all of these were taken from your existing report and then just put into our format here. Then we have a brief FIM description. This gives you a basic, so you can understand what's being done. We organize these again by building. You have the total project budget. Again, the difference between the way that we assemble our budgets and the previous method. Again, neither one's right or wrong. It's just a kind of how the budgets evolve. With any project, you have what's known as the hard cost or the construction cost or the construction budget. That is kind of that, think of that as your bricks and mortar, your trade contractor work, hence the term hard cost. And then there's a soft cost. Soft cost doesn't mean, non-essential. It just means that's the work that's the design work. The project budget is the only one you have here. The project budget includes both the hard costs and the soft costs. And keep in mind, it's a budget. And what Nexus guarantees contractually is that once the scope is selected, we guarantee that the project will not come in over budget. If it does, we have to redesign it at our expense to get it under budget, okay? If we bid everything out, everything comes in under budget, you keep the difference. So we make sure that your project doesn't come in over budget. We're all incented to drive the cost out, okay? That's the project budget. So keep in mind, that's an all-in budget. The funding source to the right of that, you see in the first line item there, it says HLS, Health, Life, Safety. Below that's fund balance, and on down the line. We basically can toggle as we're selecting our projects now, what projects do we want to do, but how are they funded? As we move across, when we toggle them in, then our funding mix automatically populates, so we can see exactly where the funding is coming from to pay for the project. Make sense? Okay? As we're doing, so you can kind of imagine that if you got all these projects and you're picking and choosing, you're trying to come up with what's the optimal mix. That rolls right into the next sheet, which is the multicolored sheet, this one. These sheets are interactive. The totals in the upper left-hand corner in the white box, which says selected projects. So you see phase 1A fund balance projects, and there is no phase 2 fund balance. None of the phase 2 projects are selected right now. Then you have phase 1A health, life, safety, phase 1B health, life, safety. All of those, again, directly from the previous sheet, rolls up to the total budget right now is $48,926,000. And then the colored boxes to the right are how the project is financed. So you've got HLS financing, alt revenue, project financing, that would be through just potential use of the county sales tax. Again, we show options. There's not decisions being made here. There's DSEB project financing, and then we show the approximate tax impact. Right now, that says NA because the district, your administrators have made it very clear that there will be no tax increase. And we are working with, again, PMA and Stiefel to make sure right now we're able to do that. We got a little bump we have to iron out, but that's very, very doable at this stage of the game. So this will be more important as we roll into phase 2, that we want to make sure that we also maintain that flat tax. Down below, the colors, as you can imagine, the grays line up with the grays, the pinkish color, I guess that is, lines up with the pink, the blue with the blue, et cetera, shows how the project, you got your expenditures, which is how the debt is repaid. Then the project funding is where does the funding come from to cover the debt service. And in the yellow, we are doing an analysis of the tax impact to make sure that, again, that we're staying flat. You'll see that it does drop off. There is a cliff, if you will, out to about 5 years. That is by design. Your administration has been very forward thinking. That is how phase 2 would be funded. That was a very quick overview, and again, keeping in mind that we worked with Stiefel and PMA to get the background information so our tool works. They would be involved with validating any solution before the board takes action.
And just to give you a little bit of a recap of where we're at in this process tonight. What we're hoping tonight is that you can take a first look at this. You can tell us what additional information you need here, because then we will have the August 4th Business Services Committee meeting, where Nexus is going to be there as well, and we'll be talking through what the board needs in terms of additional information. We then will, at the August 18th board meeting, have a work session with the board that begins at 4 until 5:30. So that'll really be the board's opportunity to get those questions answered and to dive into this in all of the detail. We know we're giving you a lot of information tonight, some of which you don't have a lot of historical context. So I don't tonight to be like, oh, well, I have all these insightful questions about this. I'm wanting you to start thinking about what questions you might have about this. So when we're back together on August 18th, we are prepared to answer those questions, and we can get those conversations to a point where you feel informed as a board. On August 18th, what would happen is if the board feels comfortable, we will have a roll call action item on that August 18th agenda to approve this new scope, okay? So the board has already approved the master facilities plan for years 1 through 3. However, now, as you've seen, there's some new financials, there's some new parts of the scope that have been moved around. We are asking for a conceptual approval with, again, the knowledge that, just like before, every project that's $35,000 or more is gonna come through the board for individual approval. But we wanna make sure the board, because it is a new board as well, understands what we're doing and feels comfortable with years 1 through 3. If the board approves that on August 18th, fantastic. Then we will start talking about years 4 through 10 and getting just, again, that broad scope of where we think those next steps are. If the board says, we're not ready, we have other questions, then we will regroup and answer those questions, and we'll come back to the next business services meeting and to the September board meeting with answers to whatever questions you have in terms of redefining that scope or whatever it is that you might have questions, concerns about, and just need some more information on. So it's my hope that we may be able to approve this on August 18th because, as was mentioned, we've got construction and bidding deadlines, all of those different pieces. However, if we need more time, we need more time, and that's okay. And once the board feels comfortable with where we are at for years 1 through 3, then we will start that discussion of 4 through 10, because that includes, as you heard again tonight, that early childhood center. That's an item we want to make sure that we're way out ahead of and that the board feels comfortable moving forward with. And we can get some of those other big design ideas underway, with again knowing that that detail will follow further down the line, and that our commitment is absolutely to be tax neutral, so that our taxpayers are not feeling a burden of this, but that we are using our dollars in the best possible way that we can to ensure the longevity of our facilities and our commitment to our students and our families and our community. So that's my summary.
Yes.
Thanks.
Well
Can I still ask?
Oh, you
questions?
can ask
'Cause I
all the
like to-
questions, and you can also, we'll start taking some notes on what questions you need more information on. But absolutely, this is your time, absolutely, to ask some questions.
So hopefully simple questions, because this is a wealth of information, I think, of our financial situation and our debt situation and repayment situation. So existing debt service, that's existing bonds or debts that we are obligated to repay from prior initiatives.
I'm gonna let Mrs. Armstrong speak to that.
Yeah, so the existing debt service includes the bonds that we just issued for health, life, safety in March. So that was that bonding that we have done. So we restructured the debt that went out to 2038, which was restructuring current existing debt, and we issued those bonds. Sorry, I did not see that you broke those out separately. So
Yeah.
that 30 million there is the bonds that we were issuing.
The HLS bond in the
Yeah.
second column.
Yep.
That's the recent bond that we issued, and then
Yes.
this is our repayment schedule for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and the existing, again, what I wanted to preface is that we did a refinance of the existing debt.
Okay.
When we did a restructure at the same time we did the health, life, safety bond issue.
Okay, so that's our existing, like, debt service, including the bond.
Yep.
The recent bond issue. And then that sums into the total expenses column, the yellow column.
Yep.
Yes.
And then CFT revenue, what
Yep.
is that?
That is the community school sales tax that we use. Every dollar we receive, we're abating our debt levy. So where it says we have $11 million in total expense for the levy in 2023, we abated 3.9 million of it. So what our taxpayers saw for the levy was only 7.7 million instead of that. So every dollar we are getting in that sales tax revenue, the district had made a commitment to the community that we would use those funds to abate the debt so that we wouldn't be levying it against them.
Okay. For the existing debt up to 2038?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, the original commitment was just for the debt that goes through from the prior existing debt for the Frusen and, or not Frusen, sorry, the North Campus, Belvedere North. But when we restructured it, it took it out to 2038. Those were set to expire in 2030. when we restructured, that keeps that commitment there. There is no existing commitment to continue to do that after that point. However, that will be completely up to the board, whether we want to levy borrowing power against those, if we want to use those for projects, or if we want to continue to abate that tax.
Okay. It's earmarked for the next,
Yes.
15 years. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I told you they were simple.
I do not want to prevent anyone from asking any questions tonight. So please feel free to ask questions. And also, if you have questions that you want us to prepare for, you can let me know that now, or you can email me.
Yeah, that was gonna be my thought. They will be here, Nexus will be here presenting at the August 4th Business Services meeting to kind of start answering some of those questions. So if you have questions that you think of before then or during that meeting, those answers are all going to be presented at the August board meeting on the 18th. But they can start preparing some of those questions. If you already have thought of questions, we'll have those ready to discuss at the August 4th as well.
Do you think, I know in the past, if it was something pretty heavy like this, as many board members as possible could make it to the committee meeting? Do you think that's one of these meetings?
Yes.
I think it would be very helpful if you can attend that August 4th meeting. However, again, we're really gonna have that time together, an hour and a half together on this on August 18th too. So if you can make it, I think that's fantastic. If you can't make it, we really are gonna make sure you get everything you need on the 18th as well. But yeah, just the more times you hear it and the more access to it, the easier it is to get your head around it too, I think.
Okay, any further questions for Dr. Shug or for the folks from Nexus?
Mr. Herrera, I know you had a question about steel and aluminum.
Yes, and so for the folks from Nexus, you probably already captured this in your 20 to 25% increase for materials such as steel, aluminum, copper, perhaps that's going to be going into these projects. That's probably been captured. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, what you're getting to is, I think is the impact of tariffs, because that's the big variable, right?
Right.
And we're bidding projects. In fact, the latest project we just bid was last Friday. And we were within, actually the mechanical work, we were within 0.1%. So our budget was, we're generally not quite that accurate, but we're typically within about 5%. But right now, tariffs are on again, off again. And we seem that our budgets, because we're tracking budgets, we're bidding projects every single week, so we're constantly tracking them. It seems the contractors seem to have it factored in right now, because we're not seeing a lot of spikes. That could change, but right now it's factored in, kind of like you're saying, that 20-25%. It's not going to be that big a piece. But to put it into context, Hans took a look at what the actual percent that copper, steel, aluminum, what that is to the projects, and what'd you come up with?
Yeah, we worked with the estimating team and kind of broke down what that 48 million looks like about 8 to 10 million of that would be affected by copper, aluminum, steel, right? That's mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, wiring, sheet metal, roof flashing. So that's a good percentage of it. But if we look at, if that amount of work goes up 20%, that's about 4 to 5% of the project, which is a considerable amount. You know that we've got contingency in there, right? We've got 5%, roughly 5% contingency. We've got some inflation factor built on, because we know this stuff some of it's gonna get bid out in 6 months, hopefully. Some of it's gonna get bid out in 9 months. So we've got to include that. So we've got some of that in there. Like Mike said, we just bid out I think it was a $17 million project. We were within 1%. That's not patting ourselves on the back, but that was all budgeted right around the time we started talking about these tariffs. So we feel pretty bullish right now that's built in. But he's got a crystal ball. We don't want to overestimate and fear monger, but you're right. We don't want to come in under budget. It's a long way to us saying we're bullish right now.
Gotcha. No, thank you for addressing that. Those are valid concerns, right? As we as a board, we evaluate these projects and the price of the material. on the potential impacts of tariffs.
It's,
Thank you.
our entire industry is keenly aware of it, and, because we got responsibility and obviously want happy clients, that we're doing everything we can, but right now, we believe we have it covered. The market seems to have it factored in for the time being.
Glad that we're not trying to figure that out.
Yes.
Any other questions for Nexus or even Dr. Shevlin? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Lauren, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we'll send your questions, send your questions, and we will make sure we're prepared to answer those on August 4th and then again on August 18th.
Okay, upcoming contract renewals and reports are provided for your reference. I would like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Shuggs for administrative reports.
All right, we have my superintendent comments, which are pretty brief, for you this evening. But I'll run through those very quickly. We have, summer school's been running. We had our Buck Thunder Special Olympics. The track team competed at the summer games, and our students placed 4th in the mini javelin throw, and 2nd and 3rd in the tennis ball throw, and 5th in the 50-meter dash. This has just been an ongoing, really fantastic opportunity for our students to really shine. So we are very excited about that. As you heard Mr. Herrera mention previously, we had the Andy Werhane Memorial Golf Outing that took place this month. Mr. Woloka and Mr. Smith were a big part of planning that, as well as many other people from our district and from our community who had felt the impact that Andy had made on education, on students, and on the community as a whole. And so it was tremendous to see the outpouring, I think, of support for Andy and Andy's family. It was really a wonderful event and a lot of fun as well. So that was great, and we're very grateful to everyone who helped make that happen. Summer school, we had the Discovery Center came to summer school. We were very excited to host them. That was done via a grant from the District 100 Foundation for Excellence in Education. And that went very well. The students learned about weather. They created their own weather balloons. And that has been very important as we've looked at the variation of weather that we are experiencing this summer. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the Sarah Ames mural. Please go check that out downtown. And if you have a chance, take a look at that article in the Belvedere Republican about the impact of Sarah Ames and the great work that Mike Lascola did to put that mural up to commemorate her impact here in our community. So that's my superintendent's comments. Any questions on any of that stuff? All right, then I'm going to take us to our strategic plan updates. Are you able to get that up there on our screen for us? I'm going to take us into our end of year summary, actually. So we did a mid-year summary of the work that's been taking place on our strategic plan. And then we also have done an end of year summary, which really highlights all of the work that's happening around each one of those different goal areas. Goal 1, academic achievement and growth. Dr. Carson, do you want to just hit some of the highlights in this end of the year summary?
Yeah, I feel like many of them you've had the opportunity to vote towards, like the adoption of our ELA curriculum, so I want to celebrate that in the handbook tonight for our bilingual program. We are planning for next year to continue rolling up math being taught in English in our dual language programs. That'll be a big opportunity for next year. We also have our math teachers in middle school developing common assessments, and they're very excited about that work. Excuse me, and then we've had a lot of work around how we best support our students in co-taught instructional classes that's been taking place. So all that will take fruition when kids come back to school here in a few weeks.
Thank you so much. And would you like to highlight goal 2, and some of the work that's been happening there over the course of the year. Dr. Johnson?
Sure, absolutely. Same as to what Dr. Carson mentioned, there's things that you've already voted on and been a part of, which is awesome, specifically the Stronger Connections grant, and then also just some of the career and college pathway options. You've heard some pieces on that. So I'm going to highlight that each school has what we call a CASTLE team. They have been meeting multiple times throughout the year. They've been meeting for multiple years, and they do specific work for social emotional learning based off of a rubric that is used nationally. So just wanted to highlight the work of those teams because they know their school and they're able to align it to the rubric. We've got some common things that we're working for all 10, but then there's also some leeway for something specific for their building. So really proud of the work that they do there. Also just wanted to mention the 2 new internships, so Rosati's and Growth Dimensions. We'll be partnering with our district. And then our SSI program, which is an intervention type program, it went so well, it is expanding to 9th grade and moving down into middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I will highlight goal 3 for us. Just last month, you heard an update on our communication audit and communication plan. We are very excited about that work, and we are now beginning our work on our family engagement part of that project. And tonight, you're going to hear a little bit about the rebrand project that we've been working on as well. Really excited overall about our audit results and feeling like our families, for the great most part, feel like they hear from us and that our communication is viable and clear, but continuing to work on that information that was targeted with our stakeholder feedback, that those individuals who don't have children in the district and some of our community partners could really be strengthened. So really trying to dive into that over the course of this next year. And again, I'll be highlighting the rebrand project for you here very shortly. And Dr. Adie.
In regards to goal 4, obviously not a lot going on with the subs right now, other than we are continuing to build the sub pool. So we are onboarding throughout the summer for that. As far as the APASA data is listed in there, 95% of our staff have answered yes or mostly yes if they're happy with the Belvidere School District. We kind of use that as a barometer for a great place to work survey. We're in the process right now of reapplying for that. And that survey, I think we have that scheduled to go out again like in December, early December, to apply for Great Place to Work again. And then in regard to professional development, that type of thing, we're gearing up for new teacher orientation, which will be August 11th through the 13th. And I know Mr. Mandera and his committee are working on the August School Improvement and Institute Days. There'll be information and letters going out to our new staff and to all staff in mid to late July, which is right now actually, as I'm saying it. So this week, next week, we'll be sending out information for that to get everybody ready for that.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Armstrong, goal 5.
Okay, we've been a very busy group. You heard a big part of it today with the Nexus working on that facilities master plan. Last year, we of course had the AI Guidance Committee reviewing all the AI platforms that we approved to go forward with Magic School. The technology group was also doing the whole student information system bid, so we've selected EduPoint. I think they're having their kickoff meeting very soon.
Couple weeks.
And we did a lot with our health services, with CPR training mandates that are now required for next school year, and making mock cardiac response kits for each of the schools. We introduced zero-based budgeting for our buildings, and I was quite pleased that all of our administration took really well to that and seeing the new concept, but I continue to say that's a lot of go slow to move faster. And 3 years of working on this, I feel like we're getting there. Now the next step for this coming fiscal year is we're going to start working on EBF alignment and allocations so that we can start to tie all that together with the common knowledge now of how their budgeting is working. So I think those panels, is that your ViewSonic panel over there?
No, but Similar.
Similar.
Yeah.
We're gonna have about 150 of those smart panels moving into our secondary schools this year. So lots of things happening in Goal 5.
Any questions from the board on those 5 goal
What's
areas?
zero-based budgeting again?
Zero-based budgeting is essentially where you're not rolling their current budgets over. They basically, administration has to tell me what they think they need in those budgets and justify those needs to match that dollar. So they're basically creating a list of these are the things I'm going to buy out of this line item and justifying what that is so that they can also do project management within their buildings. So if they want to say this year I'm going to invest in my foods and consumer sciences class and maybe I'm not going to put so much in my construction and trades, but next year we're going to do that. Gives them more flexibility instead of saying everybody gets $500 this year or every person gets this. It gives them that flexibility and also address there's some years where some schools need a little more and some schools will need a little less. And one of the nice surprises was some of our schools said they needed a little less. They were having some more, which made it available for some of our other schools to get some necessary needs they had for this year. But all of them understanding there's kind of a trade-off in that maybe next year somebody else is going to need that. So I was pleased that not everybody was asking for more and, you know, they were willing to share within their buckets. So it was a very positive experience for their first time.
Is that the responsibility of the principal?
Yes. So I've spent the last 2 years teaching them how to read their budgets and acknowledge account numbers and understanding what goes into each of those account numbers, really making them responsible for their purchasing, their budgeting, doing the budget amendments. We're hoping to get to a point where we won't do budget amendments except for grants that come in with carryover and doing those minor adjustments. But we were allowing that, really doing it once mid-year so they could realign, because I've started this process with teaching them to spend where it should be, not necessarily where they budgeted. So this year they got 2 years of data to compare against where they spent their money and now tried to build a budget based on a zero amount. And, you know, got lots of questions. Well, do I have to match this number? No, I want you to tell me what you need. And they really embraced that side of it. So it was nice.
Nice, thanks.
What are ViewSonic panels?
That's that smart panel over there. So instead of
Interactive panels, so
TVs?
our large panel where you can, there used to be smart boards in the classrooms with the projector and the pens, and now it turns into a panel, a TV, interactive TV.
Okay. Okay. Really cool.
Any other questions on the strategic plan and the work happening there? We will be having our administrative retreat coming up here at the end of July, where we'll be really digging into that strategic plan, setting our new goals, which will come before the board in September and October. So we are looking forward to that work. All right. If we could pull up the branding update. So one of the things I'd really hoped to have for you tonight was a new brand to approve. We've been meeting with our branding committee since May, and really the goal of that team has been to collaboratively engage with all of our stakeholders, so again, students, staff, families, and community members, to take a look at the district brand and have it become a truly meaningful signature of what the district is about. We know that, again, people who are in the district have a pretty positive feeling about it, but we want to convey what it is we feel about the district with that brand. So we reviewed our current brand, and we really discussed what did we want that brand to convey and how could we make it uniquely D100. So you can see as you kind of scroll through this, some of the things that we discussed, wanting to connect this to the mission and the strategic plan, but also wanting it to withstand this test of time. As we know, we're going to continue to reevaluate the strategic plan, but a brand is something that's going to stay with us, we hope, for many, many years in the future. So what did we want the brand to convey? Unity, community, opportunities, pride, welcoming, and to look like some of those other larger districts. So those were after so much, I mean, really, so much discussion and looking at so many brands, we have come to the top 2 designs. And here they are. So the top design is from a lot of the feedback from the committee that they wanted it to look more abstract. So what you're looking at here is a graduation cap with a tassel that also represents a pathway. Then you can see the bottom image there is to be a book that is opened and going to lead you down that pathway. You also see the tagline that the committee generated, learn, innovate, lead, which ties to our existing mission, our existing strategic plan, but we also think, again, endures that test of time, okay? The bottom symbol there is a less abstract logo, but still captures those things that the committee really wanted. Here, there's a pathway to reflect the student's educational journey. Again, you have the book, and here you have the star, which is meant to be a symbol of innovation and leadership. So we then sent it back to the work group for their feedback, and if you scroll down, it seems pretty clear that they felt like the less abstract version was the direction that we should be going, that this looked more like education. There's also some feedback on this about some redesigning of that star, making the star a little bit smaller, set down a little bit further, and perhaps a little bit more abstract. Maybe it's open, maybe it's 4 points, but the idea of this particular design clearly resonated with the group and seemed to, again, never going to have perfect alignment. Just like on the cell phone team, there was heated debate about should this be a 100, should it be a B, should it be a symbol? And we really wanted it to be something that could stand alone. The symbol could stand alone and people would recognize it. We really got away from that 100 as that standalone symbol because there was less of a symbol of sort of that unity and community that we could derive from that, which again really we looked at many different flames and books and academic symbols, but again, this is the one that rose to the top. Mr. Bell, anything you would add?
There was a wide variety of options that came through, and these 2 that came to the top are a lot better than what we started out at.
It has been a journey, a pathway to a brand.
So when it says 16 responses, is that who voted, just 16 people?
Correct. So when you're doing, so we had a team of 25 maybe that were a part of that branding team. So we did not send this out to the whole district at all. We sent it out to our administrators and to that branding team to provide that feedback. And there's actually been a few more responses, I think, since she captured this on Friday. So my question to the board is, how do you feel about this as a potential brand? And I have it on tomorrow's board retreat as a possible item for a vote if the board felt comfortable with moving forward with one of these brands. There's a lot of things that we need to do if we want to roll this out at the beginning of the school year. We have things like t-shirts and all of our other sorts of materials that we're sort of holding on doing something with, but we don't want to rush the brand decision either. We want to make sure it resonates and it feels okay with people. So looking for some of your feedback. You don't have to give me all of that feedback tonight because we will have an item tomorrow to see if this is something we want to move forward on or if we want to wait and see if you want to move forward later in August. But thoughts, comments, questions, feedback?
So the top concept 1 is off the table, it's just concept 2?
Well, so these are the top 2 concepts. Do you like the top concept?
No, I hate it.
So then
Really?
let's.
I went the opposite way. I was like, oh, I like that.
See,
it's
all I
clear.
see is a cigarette.
See, this
Like a
is-
cigarette with
Oh,
smoke, like
somebody
you wanna put the
else said
circle
that
on
too,
it
that
and
looked
no
like a
smoking
cigarette.
sign.
I would have never thought it that way.
That's all I see on that one.
Somebody else
I
said
can't
that too.
unsee it now.
Right.
Who's thinking cigarettes here?
I'm like, are we gonna put that on our school? Like, this is a smoking area or a not smoking area?
They could light that on fire, I guess.
Well, there was a lot of flame conversation. So I think a lot of the feedback is that this top one looks a little bit more corporate, and the bottom
No
one
wonder I like
looks a little bit more, right, a little bit more educational. It's hard, and having something that's going to resonate with everyone is hard.
So talk a little bit more about the star. You're thinking maybe make it a little smaller?
So, Mr. Lascola actually did a little work on this already to sort of bring this, like, the star feels a little bit big. I think the feedback we have is that the star feels a little bit big, but we like the idea of the innovation and a path leading to that. So bringing that star down a little bit so that the path actually kind of goes into that star and it feels a little bit more in alignment. That's not quite the word I'm looking for, but in alignment, symmetrical. And also the possibility of just having it outlined in that yellow and not filled in the yellow. So that's some of that feedback as well. Again, we'd look at, really having that concept approved and then doing a little bit more fine tuning of it to make sure we feel like this is the way we want to go. But I wanted to make sure that, that the board wasn't thinking that it looked like a cigarette before we went forward with
This is a
it.
smoking section.
We could change the colors. There's a lot of things you could do to do that. But again, to me, it seems like the feedback's pretty clear that people are looking for a little bit more traditional in terms of that symbol. Thoughts, comments, questions?
I feel equipping to succeed for life's journey when I look at that, so.
I like that. Equipping to
Shoot for the
succeed.
stars.
Would we be able to see the new star by tomorrow or no?
I can try. I can
I don't
try.
wanna
I can
put
definitely show
pressure
you what
on
Mike did. So for sure we have what Mr. Lascola did. And I'll try to get that done for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Where did learn, educate, innovate, and lead come from?
It really came from the team talking about, again, the connection to our mission, our strategic plan, but also looking forward. So we talked through what words really resonated with us that we felt represented District 100. There was a lot of conversation, obviously, about learning, but also about wanting to be progressive and feeling like this is a district where we do try to encourage innovation and forward thinking. And to that end, ending with lead. And that we are trying to embrace leadership in all areas from our staff and from our students.
Those are three really strong words. I like that a lot.
Thank you. I like that a lot too. And I thank you. The committee really is the people that pulled those words out of all of the concepts that we've been talking about.
What's it cost to rebrand?
Well, what does it cost depends on the rate at which we would look at turning some of those items over. So we are going to do T-shirts for the teachers at the beginning of the year. There's no cost to do them this way versus a different way. But as we look at things like signage and whatnot, obviously there's going to be,
Folders.
there's going to be some cost to all of those different pieces. As with most things, what we will do is a gradual rebrand. We don't need every single sign in the district to turn over in a year, but we would want the website.
As they wear out or as they.
Correct. And you're ordering new business cards, we're gonna put the new logo on it. So the more we can do now when we're doing some of those things, like ordering some of those things, the better. But yeah, definitely something like this takes process and it takes time, and we're not looking to clean out every single piece of that branding.
We will definitely use envelopes and all the things that
Yes,
we
we
have
will.
already.
Yes, we will.
Everything that we.
We're not throwing out the old.
Point in time, so things are on our website, are on our, our stationery is digital, it's easy to turn a lot of things over and put that brand out in front of people without making a significant investment, especially because it's at the district level. And we've been waiting, for example, we want to rebrand down here. We've been waiting to do that until we have that new district logo. So we'd like to redo this back wall space with that brand.
And like the podium, like even, it's vinyl, it'll come off and just put the new one on. It's not replacing the whole podium.
Oh, I didn't know.
The Dr. Carson garage sale.
Yeah, vintage.
Vintage, yeah.
I think I have a children first one from
I
when
do
we
too.
first started
I do too.
in the closet too, so.
Yep.
You still wear them for fun.
A walking piece of history, a walking piece of history.
Can create their own museum.
So we'll bring this back tomorrow and see how we feel. And again, if this is something that needs to wait, that is totally fine. But if it resonates with you and you feel good, know that the committee spent a lot of time on it. We went through, 100 designs.
Ooh.
Right? Like, at least. So this is not our first take. This really has involved a lot of collaboration and a lot of ownership and a lot of different people. Okay. All right. That is my rebrand. What else do we have on our admin
So
reports?
just to follow up on Dr.
Yes.
Shug's comments, we have some time to think about these options for tomorrow night. So think about them and how they set in with you. And, hopefully we'll be at a point tomorrow night to be able to vote on it if that's what we so choose.
If that is what you so choose. And I think there is nothing else I need to highlight for you in those admin reports for tonight. So
Okay.
that's all I've got.
Thank you, Dr. Shug. Let me see here. Well, we have a list of upcoming board meetings and events that you'll see there on the agenda. Moving on, do I have a motion and a second to go into closed executive session regarding section 2, heading C, exception sub number 1 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the appointment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body?
Second.
All right, Member Hauk made the motion, and Piggy seconded the motion to go into closed executive session. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Mr. Piggy.
Aye.
Mr. Mueller.
Aye.
Mr. Hemke.
Aye.
Mr. Dieselmeyer.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrera.
Aye.